You know, when you think of Yellowstone, geysers and bison probably pop into your head. But the real story here? It's so much bigger. This isn't just a park, it's a world forged by these incredible primal forces. Volcanic fire from deep within the earth, massive glaciers that sculpted the land, and of course the untamed fury of its wildlife. It's a story that's been written in stone for over 11,000 years.
All right, so here's how we're going to break down this epic story. We'll start by setting the stage on this land of primal forces. Then we're going to explore the forging power of fire, the sculpting hand of ice, and the untamed fury of its wildlife. And then we'll get into how this whole system is under pressure today, and what its story of preservation means for all of us.
Okay, but before we get into the geology, we've got to acknowledge something really important. We are not the first people to have a deep relationship with this land. For over 11,000 years, this has been a home, a sacred place, a vital resource. Today, it still holds deep ancestral and modern connections for 27 associated tribes. Their story is really the foundation that everything else is built on.
Now let's jump into the first of these primal forces, fire. And in Yellowstone, fire operates on two totally different but connected scales. You've got this colossal engine of heat deep underground, and then you have the regenerative force that sweeps across the surface. Literally right under our feet lies the heart of Yellowstone, a massive chamber of magma. This thing is the engine of a supervolcano, and its insane heat boils the groundwater, powering every single geyser, hot spring, and bubbling mud pot. We're talking about the largest concentration of these hydrothermal features on the entire planet.
So here's where it gets really cool, how that underground fire is connected to the fire on the surface. For thousands of years, wildfire here hasn't just been some destructive event. No, it's a vital, natural process for renewal, for cycling nutrients back into the soil, and for creating all sorts of different habitats.
And you might be surprised by what actually starts these fires. Well, yeah, humans are a factor. A whopping 78% are ignited completely naturally by lightning strikes. Fire is just a fundamental part of how this ecosystem works.
And this is just a perfect example of how life has adapted. The lodgepole pine, one of the most common trees in the park, actually needs fire to reproduce. See, its cones are sealed shut with this tough resin. The only thing that can melt that seal is the intense heat from a wildfire, which then lets the seeds pop out onto a freshly fertilized forest floor. How clever is that?
You know, for a long time, we saw big fires as just a catastrophe. But the historic fires of 1988 completely flipped that idea on its head. It turned into this incredible living experiment. It showed ecologists like Monica Turner that fire isn't just destruction. It creates this beautiful mosaic of different habitats, driving renewal and diversity on a huge scale. Okay, so from the intense heat of fire, we're going to pivot to our second great force, ice. This is the artist that literally carved the landscape we see today, and it's still the lifeblood that sustains the entire region every single year. Try to picture this. Thousands of years ago, vast ice sheets, some up to half a mile thick, covered this whole region. As these immense glaciers slowly moved, they acted like these cosmic bulldozers, grinding down sharp V-shaped river valleys into the wide, majestic U-shaped valleys like the Lamar Valley that you see today. And that legacy of ice? It's not just ancient history. It's happening right now in the form of the massive snowpack that builds up in the mountains. This basically acts as a giant frozen reservoir. Its annual meltwater feeds the headwaters for the Yellowstone, Snake, and Green rivers, providing 60 to 80% of the stream flow for millions of people, farms, and cities all across the American West. So with the stage now set by fire and ice, it's time to introduce the actors, the untamed fury of life itself. Yellowstone is home to a web of wildlife that is so dense and dramatic, it's pretty much unparalleled. What you're looking at is one of the last, nearly intact, temperate ecosystems on the entire planet. It supports the largest concentration of mammals in the lower 48 states. We're talking everything from the grasses on the valley floor to these huge herds of herbivores, and of course the formidable apex predators at the very top. And at the heart of all this drama are two absolute icons of the American West. You've got the bison, a true living fossil that's been here since prehistoric times, and then the grizzly bear, a powerful keystone species. And while their numbers have recovered, the population in the entire greater Yellowstone ecosystem still hovers at just around 1,000 individuals, a pretty stark reminder of their fragile place in this world.
Now, for nearly 70 years, a really key predator was missing from this landscape. But in 1995, the gray wolf was brought back, and you can see the impact almost immediately on this chart. The elk population, their main source of food, began a steady decline, reigniting this ancient dance between predator and prey that had been silent for decades.
So it's not some simple food chain, right? It's not just predator eats prey. It's this complex, constant struggle for dominance. Bears will actually push wolves off their own kills. Wolves, in turn, have seriously reduced the coyote population. It's a landscape of powerful competitors where survival means navigating a world full of rivals.
Okay, so we have these three ancient forces, fire, ice, and fury, all working in this delicate balance. But now we're at a critical turning point. This entire system is facing a brand new, incredibly powerful pressure, a rapidly changing climate.
And what's happening is this really dangerous feedback loop. Let me just walk you through it. As you can see, warming temperatures are weakening the force of ice, so you get a smaller snowpack. That leads to drier summers, which stresses out the forests, making them an easy target for insect outbreaks. All of this comes together to amplify the force of fire, leading to longer, more intense fire seasons that completely change the habitats for all the wildlife.
And if you're wondering what's driving that feedback loop, well, here it is. This simple graph says it all. The annual average temperature in the ecosystem is just climbing, steadily, decade after decade. This isn't some future prediction. This is the reality that is fundamentally changing the character of the park right now.
And this all brings us to our final chapter, where this epic geologic story of fire, ice, and fury becomes deeply intertwined with our own human story.
You see, Yellowstone was preserved not just because it's beautiful, but because it's a living laboratory. The story of these forces is still unfolding, and the research that's happening here every single day helps us make better decisions on how to protect this incredible place for generations to come. And look, this isn't just a story for scientists and park rangers. By visiting, by learning, and by understanding the deep connections that tie this whole landscape together, we all become a part of its ongoing story. We become stewards of this incredible legacy. So that's where we'll end. The ancient forces of fire, ice, and fury are now colliding with the very modern force of climate change. The story of this incredible place is still being written, and it really leaves us to wonder, what role will we choose to play in its next chapter?